you know, the show is called Pack Your Bags. And there's one picture here that doesn't require packing your bags. Let me just tell you, that one is in Argentina. So which one do you think is the one that you don't have to pack your bags for?
Visalia.
Exactly, yeah, that's our neighborhood. But you know what we pack when we go there with my wife over there? We pack a picnic.
Yeah.
So you know, you don't have to have money to travel across the world to go to beautiful places and have amazing experiences. And so that's why that piece is there, to remind us that, you know, we can have a good time and explore, you know, within minutes of where we live. So like I said, I was born in Argentina. Argentina is the southern country in South America. So I'm far, far away from home. I came to the States when I was 23. We grew up in the country, near a river. Obviously, like most of you, before we had phones, right? So I would just tell my mom, I'm gonna go fishing, and she'd say, okay, come before it gets dark. And that's how we did it. So I would walk, and there was wild monkeys and horses and pigs and you name it. So it was always an experience, an adventure. So that is well engraved inside of me. So I love to go to the mountains, go on hikes and explore. And back then I didn't know that that was, you know, kind of like engraving itself in who I am. Then as I became a dad, I have several kids, and I was able to pass that to them. You know, I would take them camping, I would show them how to fish, how to clean the fish, how to cook it. And so, yeah, that's who I am. And I grew up in the country, but only 15 minutes from a city of 500,000 people. So I was able to experience both worlds. And I think that's kind of like what we see here. This is a lot of big cities around the world, but my previous show was all about landscape areas, especially around here, where we have gone and explored. When I finished high school, I was one of those that didn't know what to do. And then I realized I like to design things. I was okay at drawing, and so I decided to go to design school. But then I realized there was no graphic design in the area where I live. And in most other countries, you don't just graduate high school and you go across the country like we do here to go to college. You stay with your parents as long as you can. It's just the culture. And for me to do graphic designs, I would have had to be got like 10-hour drive from my parents. I was not ready for that, so I thought, okay, I got to find something else that I would like to do around here. So I enrolled in architecture because I thought, oh, architecture, you know, you design things, it would be fun. And it was fun sometimes when I didn't have math or physics or calculus, and that was not me. So I struggled for a while, really enjoyed the classes where I had to draw a little bit of cityscapes and buildings and designing things, and then the other part I just couldn't stand. So after 3 years I thought, I'm done with this. Now I was a little more mature and ready now finally to leave my parents. Made the arrangements. I was going to move to Buenos Aires where I could go to school for graphic design. And then a girl shows up and changes all my plans. You know? She was now an American girl also that went to Argentina on a mission trip in the summer. And we hit it off pretty good. And then she came back and she started writing letters because we didn't have phones or computers back then. So she'll write a letter, and 2 weeks later I will receive it. I will answer her letter and send it back. And so it was 1 month for the communication to happen. But anyways, then she one time told me, why don't you come visit me now? So that, you know, opened the door and the opportunity to come to the States. And that left my graphic design future in the past, because I came to America with one bag. I was just going to visit for a month. Fell in love with the country. So beautiful, so much like Argentina, but things were working better here. Wow, Argentina could be just like America, but we have so many problems in our economy with the corruption and the politics, and we are so many years behind. So I fell in love with the country, called my parents. I said, there's been a change of plans. I love you, but I'm going to be staying here. So they were very supportive, and here I am.
That's when the several kids came in, huh?
Wow, you know. Yeah, so it didn't take long. With this girl didn't work out. I was living in the Bay Area and decided to go to school. I studied theology, and there I met another girl that was from Visalia. So now you're seeing how I ended up in this area. So this one I did marry. We were married for 28 years, and sadly, a few years ago, things just couldn't keep going, and we got divorced. And through the time I was still living with my ex-wife, I wanted to live in Exeter really badly. But the 2 times when I was ready to buy a house, could not find the right house in Exeter, so I bought it by sale, then again. And so there was my desire to be in Exeter. Finally, I met this wonderful lady over there in the black shirt. And when we started dating, I realized that she lived in Exeter. So wow.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
You knew where you wanted to
Third
be.
was the charm. And we are having a great time together. We've done all of these trips together. We love to explore. She packs the best picnic baskets, and yeah, she also loves art, and she's my greatest inspiration and my help. I can be honest and tell you that when you paint, sometimes almost in every painting, you get to a point that you're like in this one, for example, what I struggled the most on this one was the water. The water is the hardest thing for me to paint, and so it was just not looking right, but it comes a point that you're like ready to say, no, it looks great, I'm done. And my wife says, are you sure? I know you can do it. But thank God for her, because every time she's helping my paintings go to another level. So we're like a team. So when I do the show, it says Miguel Pujol, should say Miguel and Jennifer Pujol, really, because,
Should have let me know about that.
so what about art, right? I haven't mentioned that. I never did graphic designs. I didn't go to art school. So I was in sales for many, many years. I had different businesses, had a restaurant. I was in marketing, and you know, which is all great. I did good with that, but it's not as exciting as painting. In 2009 or 10, when the economy took a turn, the company that I was working for, I was doing so good there, I thought I was going to retire with that company. In like 3 weeks, went out of business. It was crazy. It hit us really hard. And for the first time in my life, I find myself without a job. And thinking, what I'm going to do? I tried to look for other jobs, you know, where I'm at, and there was nothing. You had to start from the bottom at that time. So I wasn't going to do that at the moment. I thought, well, I'll just, you know, stay busy, do things from the house. So this is where things start. So in about 2010, I had a friend that was working for Edison, so he was able to get me those cable spools, you know, where they wrap the cables inside. And I can't remember why I had one in my garage. I kept tripping on it, so one day I'm thinking, I'm going to put this thing apart. So I take the screws out, and then I have 2 round pieces now. And I thought, wow, do something with this. So I decided to make a clock. So I stenciled some numbers, put some design, painted it. And right when I finish it, I'm looking at it, I have the garage door open, my neighbor passes by and she goes, wow, did you make that? I said, yeah, it's beautiful, can I buy it? And I go, yeah, everything is for sale. And so I sold it to my neighbor, she hung it in her office the next day, and I get a phone call from her coworker. Do you think you can make me a clock like you did for my coworker? I said, well, sure. So I used the other round and I made a clock. Get a phone call. I saw the clocks that you made, can you make one? So I call my friend, hey, do you have any? Yeah, oh, I have tons. So he shows up the next day with a truck full. So I'm throwing these spools in my backyard and taking them apart, and I was making one clock after another clock after another clock. And then I went back to work for another company finally, but I was having so much fun, you know, making something with my hands that people wanted to buy. It was like such a good feeling. So I keep I kept working on the evenings, on the weekends, making my clocks. And made 350 big clocks that people will hang on their living room, on their mantles. And then is when the divorce came, so we had to sell the house that we had where I had my little shop, so everything came to a stop. And I went like that for 2 years, and finally I started having that itch. Missed that. I want to do something with my hands. So I built another little shop, but I didn't want to make clocks anymore. That was a thing of the past, right? I didn't want to associate things, so I clocked out, and I thought, okay, what else can I do? So I started making little mountain scenes with wood. During that time, we got married about 3.5 years ago, and we have a restaurant in Exeter, so I would be covered in dust in 100-degree weather working in my shop, and I was, do you think you can come and help me? Oh, okay. I'll have to go home, change, take a shower, go help, go back to the shop, get all dirty again. So it was, fun but a little complicated. So one day, slowly I started putting a little bit more paint on my designs. First it was stains, wood stains, and then a little bit of paint, and a little more, and then one day I thought painting seems like a fun thing to do. So I go to Michael's, I bought a piece of canvas about this big, some brushes, some paint, I bring it home, and I go, what do I do with this? I didn't know where to start. So I remember my wife and I were going a lot to the coast. I was selling some of my wood art at a gallery in Cambria. So on the way to the gallery, there was this little farm on the side that I always liked when we drove by. So I took a picture and I thought, okay, I'm going to paint this. So that was my first painting. Very simple, very sad. But it kind of like was the beginning of where I'm at today. This was only 2 years ago. 2 years ago I did my first painting on canvas. So this is what. So 2 years ago I painted my first canvas, and it was, like I said, a little farm scene. And then I had a show at the art gallery in Exeter. It was all outdoor pieces, so like that one, right, from the mountains. I thought that I was always going to paint the outdoors only. That went really well. And right after the show, I got really sick. I had a sciatic nerve problem. I couldn't move for 7 months. And I couldn't even sit down to paint, which is the easiest thing to do in the world, right? Just sitting in your chair with a light brush, but I couldn't even do that. I was completely out of commission. So instead of getting depressed about it, I saw it as a blessing, because I knew that it was time for me to move into something else in my painting. And when I came back from that a year later, this came by. My wife and I were able to travel a lot, and we took a lot of pictures, and so then we decided to change the style a little bit. So it was a little scary and intimidating at first. I think the first one that I did was that little church over there that is in England, St. Michael's Church. It was New Year's Eve 2 years ago, and we were walking, and I remember walking with my wife. It was after midnight, after we saw the fireworks over the city of London. We were walking back to our house, and I see this church, and so we turned back, we came, and it was so beautiful. And it was like that. The sky looked a little eerie. The colors are just like those. And so I painted that with a palette knife only. I didn't use a brush. So it was the first time that I ever did that. So I was pretty happy with how it turned out. And then this one over here is the wetlands in Argentina, also done only with a palette knife. Has anybody been to London?
Yes.
Yeah. It's an intimidating city, right? It's so big, it's so beautiful. And it has, I think, like no other city in the world, the mix of the old buildings and the most modern buildings. Like, if you turn the river there a little bit to the right, then you come to all these glass buildings that are the most modern technology that you can imagine, and how they're there together. So on the first trip to London, I never thought I will ever paint that, you know, me? I mean, if somebody told me that I was gonna paint that, I said, absolutely not, I can't. This is like about 5-6 months later, after we came back, I woke up one day and I told my wife, I think I wanna paint a cityscape of London. And she goes, of London, are you crazy? And I said, oh, now I'm going to paint it. So thank you, honey, there it is. So yeah, if you look at it, it's pretty wild. I look at it many times and I think, how did I ever do that? I used the old little grid system that we learned in elementary school, right, where you just make squares. And this is my latest piece. This one took me about 3 weeks. This is in Copenhagen, beautiful city, and lovely. The colors are just spectacular. That's why I wanted to paint it. So this is a little bar, cafeteria type of thing. And so we were sitting here on the street with my wife, as is very common over there, having some sangria. And all of a sudden we hear music, we turn around and these two characters are there playing and singing. And they were so funny. So this guy here that looks like Dracula, he's there, you know, his Spaniard way. And so it just made an impression. So I thought, I gotta paint this guy. So quite an experience. And then we have that one right there. That's Porto in Portugal. Has anybody been to Porto? Well, go buy some tickets and head to Porto because it's one magical city. My wife and I could go live there tomorrow if we could. Porto's to the right and Gallo to the left. Right, Gallo? That's where the port wine comes from. So if you look closely, and then we have Paris, of course, a magical city like we always hear it is. My wife and I went there in December, 2 years ago. But if you look at those trees, what season do you think it is? That's right? In the picture that I took, I made that painting from a city, a picture looks just like that, but the trees are bare naked, right? A bunch of black and gray sticks. So I wanted to, you know, reflect the sunset color, so I turned it into a fall painting, and I think that's really good. So that's the beauty of being an artist, right? You can play God sometimes.
You say that you like to change what you're doing often. What is your next one?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.